And we have Miss Audrey Anthony as well here. Okay, let's start. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking your time today and participating for this webinar. And I hope all of you are well. Today, we will share with you some info about how to get your Portuguese residency and access to any 27 European countries. But before that, I would like to remind you about that you can have the question. If you have any question, you are more than welcome to ask. You can write it on the chat box. Chat box is at the bottom of your screen. You can just click on it. There will be the window open. You just write it down, and we will catch up with all your questions end of the session. And also we advise that you can put your screen on the speaker view because it makes you to see the slides bigger and easier. So you can have control as well. Now I would like to introduce you to our speaker, Desmond Ang, our managing director. He's a founder of Global Migration Solution as well. Also, top 50 migration CEO award winner in 2019. And also, he is the certified chartered accountant around 8 years. Without further ado, I will pass to Desmond to start this webinar. Desmond?
Hi, Sam, thank you. And good morning. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Pleasure meeting you here. I'm Desmond Ang. I started Global Migration Solutions 16 years ago. And one of the very important practices that we have adopted since day one is to make sure that we and the team adopt the right migration practices. And over the years, we have maintained the trust, the service, and the commitment for our clients, our business partner, and importantly, for ourselves and our brand. We carry ourselves as a premium migration advisory firm, and we are awarded as the top 50 global migration agency by the U Global magazine in Los Angeles. Over the last 16 years, we have helped more than 12,000 families successfully migrating to different countries. And one of the important milestones that we have managed to achieve over the years is the successful rates. And today, we have offices in Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, and Australia to support our clients. We specialize in Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, United States, and Malaysia Second Home Program. So this is the U Global magazine, and how do they identify the top migration advisor or the specialist is through our successful records as well as our practices over the years. I'm also very actively speaking in the various conferences over the years to share about various migration programs. And these are my team members. So now I'm excited to share with you this Portugal Golden Visa. This is in fact one of the most successful Golden Visa programs across the European countries. This program was introduced in 2012 and it has been around for the last 8 years. This program was designed to allow non-EU citizens to live in Portugal, but importantly, with an access to the rest of the 27 countries. over the years. It's a very straightforward programs. These programs relatively is also one of the very affordable programs because it requires you to invest only 280,000, starting from 280,000 over a period of 5 years. And later on, we are going to have our expert to also share with you what are the investment options available. Now, over the 5 years, you and your family member who is a Golden Visa holder are required to spend a very minimum of 7 days over a year. So for a year over the next 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, you can choose to either to maintain as a permanent residence in Portugal, or you could choose to take up a citizenship where you have then full access to the rest of the 27 countries. Now, the unique features about this Portugal Golden Visa, it is very straightforward programs, and it takes 12 months to process. Relatively, you might thought that this is quite a lengthy processing time, because as compared to some other programs, you might be able to get the residency over four months periods. Reason why? Because the demand for the Portugal Golden Visa has a strong demand. And this program, when it was first started, it was 4 months, then the processing time increases to 6 months. And today it has now is taking almost 12 months to process. And this is a good indicator to explain. A lot of people do understand that Portugal Golden Visa, as compared to all others, is a better options and a better choice. These programs also allow you to bring your entire family member, including your parents and your in-law, if they are above 65 years old, and depending upon you. And with the Golden Visa, you and your family members are given rights to live, work, and study in Portugal during the first 5 years. And after the 5 years, we will talk about that, what is your options later, yeah? So during the first 5 years, all of you in the family has the access to the Medicare in Portugal, as well as the education. If you are putting your kids in the government school, if your child is at the stage of the tertiary education, then they need to be a usual resident of Portugal for 2 years before they enjoy the tertiary education benefits. Also, the 7 years of residency, in fact, it could also be achieved for over 14 days, for 14 days over 2 years periods. The law has just changed, which give you the flexibility to travel only once in every 2 years. So it works out to be 14 days over 2 years periods. This is very minimum. It is suitable for those who is not ready to move over yet, and this is taken as one of an options when there is a need to be based overseas. Now, the citizenship, as I mentioned earlier, it is at the end of the 5 years. The rules to obtain the citizenship, again, it is also very straightforward. All you need to fulfill is to maintain the Golden Visa residence for 5 years with the Golden Visa residency status that allows you to consider a citizenship. And you are required to pass a very simple Portuguese online tutorial, and that would be taken as consider meeting the language requirements. And that, other than that, the police or criminal records checks, should you pass the criminal records check, and these are the steps for you to obtain the citizenship. With the citizenship, you and your family member has then extended your rights to live, work, and study across the Schengen area. And I'll share with you shortly which are the 27 countries later. Yeah. Importantly, the Portugal Golden Visa, when you obtain the visa, it doesn't make you automatically as a tax resident of the Portugal. Yeah, this is very important because when you were to compare, for example, to the green card in America, whenever you obtain a green card, whether you live in United States or not, you are considered as a tax resident automatically. Whereas for Portugal, should you decide to spend more than half of the year, which is 183 days in a year, then only the worldwide tax income applies. And of course, as you know, Portugal is also very popular in terms of, a destination for a retiree and high net worth individual because of the low tax regime in Portugal. For a GV holder, Portugal government has also made the first 10 years as a tax exemption for the GV holder. So these are all the unique features about the Portugal Golden Visa. And in terms of the 27 countries, and these are the countries available. So if your children's has a passion in information technology, and Portugal has the world's best university in the world, the Novum University, and if they want to study medicines, Ireland is available for them. And if they want to study music, so there are also countries available for them to go to. And beside me, our lawyer Antonio has also recorded a script to share with you more in depth about the Portugal Golden Visa. And I'm going to play this because of the time zone difference. We have this pre-recorded so that he is able to share with you guys. Let's hear what he says.
Hello, everyone. My name is Antonio Viñal, and I represent the law firm of AFCO Legal. We have offices in Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Malaysia, where we handle a large number of files for our clients throughout the ASEAN region, particularly in property purchase and Golden Visa. In today's presentation, I will walk you through some of the main features of the Portuguese Golden Visa program, as well as some other questions of note. So without further ado, I will bring the presentation right up, and we can begin. In terms of entry points, I have listed them in the slide, letters A to G. And while there are many, most of the applicants focus on purchase of property in letters D and E. So letter D is purchase of property for a minimum of 500,000 euro. This might be any kind of property anywhere in Portugal, as long as you reach that minimum threshold of 500,000, and you can buy one or more pieces of real estate until you reach that threshold. Now, letter E is a little different. The threshold is lower, it is 350,000, and first of all, you would need an eligible property, one that is located in an urban renewal area as defined by the relevant council, or one that is at least 30 years old. And the cost of the purchase itself, so the cost of the real estate, plus the cost of the refurbishment works, has to reach that minimum threshold of 350,000. The duration of the visa now has changed. Until April, it was, as you see in the slide, 1 year plus 2 years plus 2 years. So initial application, you get your card for 1 year, then you renew it for 2 years, and you renew it one last time for another 2 years. Right now, it is 2 plus 2 plus 2, so a total of 6 years. Do I need physically to stay in Portugal? What is the minimum stay requirement? That is 7 days a year or 14 days in each 2-year period, meaning that during those 2 years, you can fulfill the 14-day stay in one go, or you can break it up during that period of time. After you've reached and completed year 5, you may choose to go through permanent residency or citizenship. The main requirements are naturally keep a clean criminal record, stay out of jail, and then also reach a minimum level of proficiency in the Portuguese language. Now, this may sound a little daunting to some people, but it's actually quite easy. There are 3 levels of difficulty according to the European Common Framework of Languages. So A to C, A being the easiest, C the hardest, and there are 3 sub-levels, 1, 2, 3 in each of these initial levels. So you're only required an A2, which is very basic and close to the easiest and simplest level of all, which is A1. Again, you're only required an A2 level. A very distinctive feature of the Golden Visa program is that the main applicant can reunify its family members. So family members can ride on the main applicant's file. Which family members? These would include the spouse, the de facto partner, children under 18, and also children above 18, as long as they're still financially dependent, so still studying, and single. Spouse's parents or spouse's parents as well, if they're financially dependent, as well as minors and disabled people. The application costs are spelled out below. So these are fees that are paid to the Portuguese government. There is a processing fee for the initial application and each renewal in the amount of 533.90 plus 83.30 for each family member. Again, this is for the initial application and each renewal as well. Once you get your card, for the initial application, you would pay 5,336.40. And this is both for the main applicant and each family member. Afterwards, when you renew your Golden Visa and your card gets issued, instead of the 5,000 plus, each family member and the main applicant would pay 2,668.20. It is worth underlining that ownership in Portugal is, for the most part, freehold. So that distinction, which is usual in some countries between freehold and leasehold, does not take place here. When you purchase a piece of real estate, it's yours to keep in perpetuity. Also, the law is very flexible in that it allows you to sell your property later on, either to nationals or foreigners. So again, a very, very favorable regime. Moving on to tax, Portugal is a very interesting jurisdiction as there's no wealth tax, no gift and inheritance tax, and a low income tax for short-term rental. So for those of you that might think in placing your property on platforms such as Airbnb, this is what you would pay. When you purchase your property, and you can look at the bottom right-hand side of the slide, there are 2 taxes to take into consideration. Number 1 would be transfer tax, residential properties on a sliding scale. Just to give you an idea, if the property is worth 500,000 euro, then the rate would be around 5.6%. If it's commercial property, then the rate is fixed at 6.5. Apart from transfer tax, you would pay stamp duty. Stamp duty is always fixed at 0.8%, regardless of the nature of the property, whether commercial or residential. I would like to leave on a very positive note, complimenting the Portuguese government for the way it handled the whole pandemic situation. Lockdown conditions were less severe than in neighboring countries, and things are getting back to normal at a very nice pace. The property market has also proven to be quite resilient, and especially now that we have data coming in the first quarter of 2020, so until the end of March. So a little bit of the pandemic effect is in there already. Portugal was one of the top countries in the EU that saw the largest or the highest increase in terms of property prices. So again, a very resilient market. That's all from me right now, and I will be happy to take any questions later on. Thank you very much for listening.
And next, I would like to take you through the 4 important steps, which is the first one, a consultation, to run through a certain question to make sure that you fulfill the GV application and to review your documents. Then the steps 2, we are going to take you through the various investment options. And this is also later on, I'm going to invite the next speaker who is the expert in this matter. She will be able to assist you to identify the best options that suit your needs. And then we will also guide you through to help you to open the bank accounts and the tax file and to file your visa application during the step 3. And importantly, after the processing of the application and when the visa is approved, during your initial landing, we will provide all the necessary support to make sure that you and your family member settle down successfully in Portugal. And next, I would like to invite Jamie. Jamie, she is the Managing Director of Intergentium, and she certainly is the expert to guide you through your various investment options. Importantly, she herself is a GV visa holder, and she has gone through the process. She understands the process, not only the process, she understands the country and the risk exposure and how to come to a decisions during her experience in the investment. And without due delay, Jamie, please welcome. Yeah, I'm going to pass over to you. Jamie, over to you, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Desmond, for your introduction. As Desmond mentioned, basically, I'm actually in my 3rd year of my Golden Visa. It has been actually a very wonderful journey, and I think I wouldn't have embarked on the journey if also I didn't work together with AFCO Legal, because they are also the lawyers who have handled my Golden Visa very successfully. In fact, the photo behind, I always get this comment. People always ask me about the photo behind. So this was actually taken for one of my trips, because as Desmond mentioned earlier, you will need to do an average of 7 days per year. And this is actually a photo of the beautiful Riviera waterfront in Porto itself, which I will be sharing today. So yes, basically, I think although the Portuguese Golden Visa program is also very straightforward in terms of fulfillment, I think finding the right investment is always a bit daunting. And what has started with friends asking me has eventually evolved into me being in the business. We now represent Intergentium Spain in Asia with Intergentium Asia to service Asia Pacific region with their needs to make sure that we find a Golden Visa compliant and also based and which is tailor-made to the client's needs. Without further ado, I think what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to show you just one of our important portfolios and a little bit about Portugal, just on the lighter note for the morning. So I wanted to also share with you why I decided to, I think a lot of people also asked me the question why I decided to embark on Portugal. Portugal is actually a very beautiful country. Honestly, when my husband first suggested Portugal, I told him I think it was crazy because we've never been there and we've only been to Spain and the other parts of Europe. I didn't understand much about Portugal, but today I wanted to share with you what I finally love about Portugal and how beautiful it's been, and I really miss being there for my 7 days per year in that sense. So Portugal actually, it's in a population of about 10 million people. In general, people actually live much longer in Portugal than the rest of the other European countries. In fact, even with the whole COVID situation, they are exemplary in how they manage the COVID situation. There's still ample healthcare. They have, the government is still very pro-investors. They still protect investors. So all these factors actually makes Portugal very palatable and very investor-friendly. The next thing I think about Portugal, which is important, so I brought my my parents who are in their 70s, and having lived and traveled quite a fair bit, I think my parents were very impressed with Portugal's safety, and it's been voted also the third most peaceful country after Iceland and New Zealand, which also makes it very attractive. The other thing as well in Portugal is in terms of the English literacy is as close to Malaysia. We are talking about 60% of the population actually speaks English. The other thing about the cost of living as well, it is much lower versus even some of our Asian counterparts like Jakarta and Bangkok. It is probably one of the lowest cost of living in Europe. But I think the most beautiful thing about Portugal is just not only attracting the Golden Visa holders, it's also attracting a lot of the Europeans and also especially the British. A high proportion of them actually decided to immigrate to Portugal because of the weather. There are many sunny days per year. And of course, the culture, being a foodie myself, I would say the culture of food and is very similar in Portugal. When you meet a fellow Portuguese, they all like to talk about their food as much as the Malaysians like to talk about our durians. They talk about their pasties, which is like the Portuguese egg tart, which is actually from Portugal and not from Macau. The other thing about education as well is Portugal. So with the Golden Visa, if your kids are age 18 and below, for public education, actually it's free, and then higher education itself will come at a very reasonable price and subsidized price as well. They are also very respectable, and Porto actually holds one of the highest ranking universities. What I like about Portugal is not just about the fact how much the real estate market is generating or how many people are actually migrating them, and not only about tourism, it's also about the thriving economy. So with the recent Brexit, I think Europe has been all vying for different specialties, and they are all looking at taking advantage of the opportunities. So in Portugal, they are now talking about Portugal being the next Silicon Valley of Europe, because we were also talking about Frankfurt being the next financial hub for Europe. So they are actually vying for them to be the tech hub of Europe. So Global Web Summit, which people like Facebook and all the IT digital world are actually still going ahead with their web summit every year, which is held in Lisbon. It is also the top 6 expat destination. So in addition, as I mentioned to you, it's not just about Golden Visa immigrants. We are talking about the other expats, including the Americans of late, have actually decided to move to Portugal. So this is actually just an article depicting. Despite also the situation and everything that's happening around the world, GDP growth for Portugal has been very stable. And as Antonio mentioned earlier on, there was also an article to say in May for their real estate sales actually hit way above the target as compared to last year. These are actually a sample of the properties that we actually market, and a lot of the properties that we've represented. So as you can see, honestly, amongst the Europeans, their tendency is to choose for something that is further out to the beach because they don't get much of the sun. However, in terms of our property investor profile, we noticed that they prefer to buy something in the central city itself. So anything that is within the historical city, it's always very high in demand. But we wanted to also to share with you the picture so you also understand why the properties that I'll be showing you later on are only like 4 or 5 stories high, because they're all located in the main historical area, and because of that, it's also very good for investors in terms of returns, rental yields, and capital gains. So, as I mentioned earlier on, the top buyers, surprisingly, are not actually the Golden Visa holder buyers. The top buyers are also people like the Brazilians, the British, and the French, because basically they are just in love with the beautiful country. And also they have a special taxation structures which makes it much cheaper for them to be, cost of living for them to be living in Portugal. Next, I'm going to go, after talking about the landscape, I will share with you about our property today, which is in Porto. Porto is actually the second largest city in Portugal, and after Lisbon itself. It's very pretty. It is actually located about 3.5 hours away from Lisbon. So I always share with our clients and say that Lisbon is like Kuala Lumpur and Porto is like Penang, because it's only about 3.5 hours. And then JB is like the Algarve. So very similar in that sense. And also in terms of the type of city, it's also very quaint, very beautiful in that sense. So it's 2.3 million people. And in 2020 and last year as well, Forbes actually and PwC, EY have actually said there are plenty of reports that substantiated to say that Porto is actually the next place to invest in. I've already explained this about the tech hub, and also Porto holds quite a few multinational companies. They are also supported by manufacturing, oil and gas, and tourism. Although tourism is, I would say, very much affected, I think, for everybody due to the current pandemic. Since they have opened up their borders, our Airbnb management companies that we work with are already receiving bookings for summer. This is actually Baisha Gardens. Baisha Gardens is actually one of the properties that are highly sought after that we just actually more or less just launched during MCO itself. It's actually developed by the real estate investors, Irish Capital Partners, which actually falls under the 350,000 scheme. So as Antonia mentioned earlier on, there are several investment options, but the most popular investment option is always the real estate option. But of late, we find that a lot of our clients, instead of choosing the 500,000 euro category, which means any property that you buy from, whether it's a piece of land, or whether it's a car park, or whether it's a shop lot, or even a house, that's considered under the 500,000 category. However, if you decide to buy a property which is in the urban rehabilitation area, but it has not been renovated in the last 30 years, you can, and we have everything in place in terms of the renovation. We have some substantiation on the level of renovation to qualify it for the 350,000 category. And that's why we find that we would like to propose this particular project, because it falls exactly under this 350,000 category. This is just a list to show you more about Porto in terms of the prices per square meter. So as you can see in Baisha Historic Zone, this is actually about 6,500. But again, these are properties that are transacted, property prices that are transacted, including the old and new properties. What we like about Baisha Gardens as well is we like the location, not only for the fact that it's located in the Baisha historic area. So as you can see, the purple line actually demarcates the historical area, right, which is where tourism normally thrives. But what we like is also it's located next to Boa Vista. It is on the bridging point with Boa Vista, which is actually where a lot of the corporate offices are. So because of this, we feel that there's a lot of appreciation because there's in terms of rentals as well, you can not only you don't only need to rent to the tourists, but you can also rent to the locals who are working around the vicinity. These are just some of the major landmarks which I'll highlight later. So it's also located very close to the metro, which is called Trinidad, which is, you can see all the colors of the lines actually converges at this Trinidad. So what happens in Trinidad itself is also the municipal center, whereby it's considered the town center, whereby it's a little bit like the Sultan Ismail in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. And in this particular area also, one of the most expensive hotels were actually transacted. And they believe that this particular street will eventually also become a luxury street in Porto. The particular location is called Rua dos Bagos, 172. And it is also, as I mentioned to you, it's Aliados, which is the place where houses the township, the town hall itself. Also focuses on the some of the major banks, and that's why it's in general it's a very beautiful avenue, probably the most beautiful avenue I would say in Porto. It is also located close to the markets. It's also located close to the embassies. It is also surrounded by the University of Porto and education centers. But the most important and most beautiful view about this property is that it faces the legal law faculty of the University of Porto, which you will see in the video, which I'll share with you later. Before I show the video, I also wanted to highlight the very important point about Rua dos Bagos, or we call it the Baisha Gardens. This particular location, as you can see, at number 250, there is actually a property surrounding this particular property that recently an international real estate investor, more specifically a Swiss investor, have actually bought over under their REIT, which they will develop it into potentially a 5-star hotel. So when news like this actually come along, it's like getting tips when you buy share markets, right? So they actually the developers then after that decided to buy this particular building because they coupled together with the fact that the law faculty is just in front. They believe that there will be a huge capital appreciation to follow. I will now show you the video. And what I love about this particular property is also that it's surrounded by gardens, which you will understand when you watch this. of the highlight of the features I wanted to share is this is also a very nice high-end development. So basically, the developer also gives an option for you to have the furniture packed so that it looks exactly as what you see. And what we will also offer is also a guaranteed return of 4% for the first year. And they are also projecting an average of 5% capital growth appreciation. So which makes it then very viable. We've also done a formal valuation on the property to justify the pricing which we have shown you today. But I think most importantly, what's the most beautiful part about this particular property is the fact that it hosts the gardens that you saw in the video just now. Actually, is about 6,000 square feet in space, and it's actually for the garden is actually free for all the owners to use or the people who rent your place to use. Which actually I think during this whole pandemic situation, to have a property, you know, and to have the access to the garden, to play and to exercise, or to have barbecues, and you know, just to see the sunlight in Portugal, I think it's very important, and it's a huge selling point and resale point in future. So, and of course, be rest assured for everything that's transacted through us, we will make sure that it's also Golden Visa compliant. We will also go through, we've also gone through all the due diligence to make sure the titles and everything is in place. And most importantly, I think is the fact that you have the assurance that we will be there to help you manage your property over the 5 years during your entire journey. I'm now going to hand over back to Desmond, and because for those who have questions, you may address it after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And so we hope that you find this session informative, both the process of the Golden Visa, as well as, you know, a quick introduction from Jamie about the investment options. We may not be able to cover the specific question that you might have. So I just wonder if there might be some question that people have asked Sam. If there is, you know, this is a session for myself and Jamie to answer.
Well, yes, sure. There are some questions. So I will ask question, whether then you let me know, Jamie or Desmond, which one you're gonna answer to those questions. First, I think that's the good question. When is the best time to submit my application?
Sure. Perhaps I will be able to answer this. Now, to submit an application in the GV, Portugal Golden Visa, as you know, this is an investment for residency programs. So importantly, you need to be ready to decide on what is your decision on the investment. So once you have made the investment, then only we can take the next process to file the GV application. So I would say typically from the initial consultation to running through all the options, to, you know, until we make the decision, and when we are ready to file the application, there's already, you know, possibly taking on average about 1 to 2 months. Yeah. So this is typically the process. So there is slightly an urgency in terms of filing the application, because last year, the Portuguese government had proposed to the parliament to introduce some changes to the Portuguese Golden Visa. That says they are looking at removing Lisbon and Porto as, you know, as an options for those who is looking at investing into the property. So there's a search of the application to file in the application before the rules change. But also, I think due to the pandemic, there's also a slightly delay in terms of the implementation of the changes. For you, if you are seriously thinking about a property as an investment options, and you will be able to find a lot of the good options in Lisbon and Porto, we typically would suggest you to consider, to make up your mind, and which comes to a decision sometimes by October, just in case, you know, the introduction and the implementation comes through second quarter of the next year. And should you make a decision by October, you'll be ready to beat the changes. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for your answer on the question. So the next question asking is, what is the minimum investment?
Right.
Okay.
Jamie, would you like to? Yes.
Yes.
So the investments, I think, I wanted to introduce the three elements in the property real estate investment option. So as I mentioned, in general, the rule of thumb is very simple. Any property that falls under, any property actually falls under the 500,000 category. So whether it's an old property, a new property, a car park, a land, or a warehouse, or office, everything falls under the 500,000 category. Now, if there is a rehabilitation that is done, so this particular property, we've structured it, the developers have structured it to make sure that they fall under this 350,000, because in the past, you will probably need to buy an old unit and renovate it and go through the whole process, and you will be concerned about your neighbors, and because your common areas are not renovated in that sense. So that's why this particular project, it has been structured that it will fall under the 350,000 because of the separate contracts that we put into place, and the ample renovation and everything. It's guaranteed by the developer. If not, there is actually there's a guarantee. There's actually a guarantee for this particular investment that it qualifies. Now, in the event that you, some clients may say that, oh, but at this point in time, I may only have a budget that is slightly lesser. Then what we normally do is we actually then move them to the options of investing in the interior area, which then the minimum amount will be 280,000 euros in the interior area, but also under the rehabilitation scheme. But it will also be it will also qualify for the Golden Visa with this 280,000 euros scheme.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I just received another question.
Yes.
Fatma asking that once you invest in Portugal, whether through property or any other investment, do we need to hire a lawyer like in other countries in order to manage the whole getting PR/citizenship, or your office there is enough for support?
Yes, sure. So to answer this question, yes, we basically, we the whole team provide a one-stop solution from the GV to the investment acquisition, the legal matter, taxation. If those goes into the property investment and you need support in terms of the property management, Intergentive is there to assist. And for those who goes into the PR after the 5 years, those who goes into the citizenships, you will be, you know, in our good hand. We provide the supports throughout the whole durations in all matters. Thank you.
Great.
I would like to say that it is, I would say that it would be, I would advise that it's completely necessary to hire a lawyer. And that is why I move forward my investment, because of my comfort level also with FCO Legal. Because although it's a simple program, but the fact that we're dealing with a different language, all the agreements and everything is actually are done in Portuguese and effective in Portuguese. It is very important to have a structured and trusted lawyer to represent your interest. So honestly, getting a lawyer is probably the best decision. But again, as Desmond mentioned, everything is covered under the whole global migration solution. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. So there is another question is about more international. They're asking, do the rules you mentioned apply to holder of any passport, or are there restrictions towards some passports?
In general, the Golden Visa rule is that it's only applicable for non-EU citizens. So at present, the UK, the British passport holders are not allowed to apply, and also the EU citizens itself. So let's say, for example, a German citizen would not be able to apply for the Golden Visa if that.
Okay.
So yeah, just to add on to what Jamie said, probably this reason why this person asked this question is because, for example, some countries might restrict certain nationality to apply for the programs, but for Portugal, like what Jamie said, only UK, you know, and in general, there isn't any restrictions if you are from, you know, Middle Easterns or you are from Asia, so you are all welcome to apply.
Brilliant.
Isn't also quota system per country. Yeah.
Okay, there is another question which is about the current situation. So with COVID-19 still in talk, will it impact my application? What is the possible risk? That is a good question, actually.
Sure. Well, this process of the application in general is done. You are not required to travel immediately to Portugal. When we file in your application, we are in about 4 months' time, we will be getting the first approval. With this first approval, you have 6 months window to make your trips to Portugal to do a biometrics. Now, given the COVID situation, the government has extended the 6 months for another 6 months. So you do have relatively a longer periods to be able to travel to Portugal to complete your biometrics before a Golden Visa residence card is issued to you. So those who is worried about that pandemic and the borders control not being able to travel, and you do not need to be worried about that, because the Portuguese government is reviewing the situation from time to time and facilitate the longer travel periods for you to be in Portugal. Thank you.
Okay, there is another question if you do have time, just a quick one. It's a good question, basically. Do we need to pay any foreign stamp duty / tax for the purchase as FRIB in Australia?
Okay, so I think I can answer that question. So in general, also the most popular question are properties freehold or leasehold. So the fact that it's a freehold, yes, it also comes with all properties are freehold in Portugal. But in addition to that, yes, you do have to pay transfer tax and stamp duties. However, it is only borne by the buyer. So when you do resell that particular property, the future buyer will be paying for the transfer tax and stamp duty. For this particular project, the stamp duty comes on the slide. It will be at 6.5%, and then the stamp duty will be at 0.8%. However, because this is also structured as a 350,000, you would say that on average, you will pay basically altogether no more than 7.3% in totality for your entire purchase.
Yeah. And also, this question did mention about FIRB, the Foreign Review Investment Board approval in Australia. Now, in Portugal, it doesn't, there isn't a review approval or permission for a foreigner to buy a property, because the Portuguese government generally open up and encourage foreign buyer. So there isn't any restriction in terms of the types of the property that you can buy in Portugal. You can choose to buy a new one. You can choose to buy an existing property. Unlike Australia, where if you are non-PR or citizen, then you're confined to buy only the new developed property. This doesn't apply in Portugal. Yeah, so it is a very friendly country to foreign investor. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a lot more questions, but I just want to mention that we will catch up with all of you again after this webinar. Whoever asked the question and we have not responded yet, We will come back to you via WhatsApp or the email address that you have sent to us. Before we finish this webinar, I would like to say, if you also want to have 15-minute free consultation with Jamie or Desmond, you can WhatsApp on the number. I would be the one who can manage and arrange the time for both of them. So 15-minute free consultation, you can WhatsApp. If anything has not answered yet, you can WhatsApp again and reach out to me with the number on your screen. Jamie, thank you for your time. Desmond, thank you for sharing all the information. All of you be safe and stay tuned for all the good news for next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good weekend ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.